What's up guys, the Snowman here, and today I've got an informational video all about the FIFA World Cup. I've already done several group preview videos for the 2022 edition, so please check those out if you're interested, but I figured I'd make this video today to kind of explain the format of the World Cup. So how many teams participate in the World Cup, how does the qualifying process work, how's the schedule set up, what's the difference between the group stage and the knockout stage, just everything format wise to get you set for the World Cup. So let's start off with what exactly is the FIFA World Cup? Well, it's an international football competition contested by the senior men's national teams of the members of FIFA. The tournament takes place every 4 years since its inaugural championship back in 1930. Basically, the World Cup is the best soccer countries getting together every 4 years to determine which nation is the best in the world. In terms of how many teams compete at the World Cup, the number has changed a lot throughout the years. It went from 13 to 16 to 24. As of right now, the World Cup has 32 teams, but that is set to change 4 years from now at the 2026 World Cup, when the number will increase to 48. The host nation alternates from World Cup to World Cup. Most of the best footballing nations have gotten their chance to host the World Cup at least once. There are a handful of nations to have hosted it twice: Italy, France, Brazil, Mexico, and Germany, but the host selection process pretty much all up to the governing body of FIFA. As for qualification, how do we get to our 32 teams that compete at the World Cup? Well, if you want a more thorough explanation, I highly recommend you check out my World Cup qualification explained video, but essentially each continent or confederation has a certain number of qualifying slots that it's allotted. You can see by this map here, CONCACAF or North America, they have 3.5 slots, so all those teams will play against each other in the few years leading up to the World Cup, and the best 3 or 4 will qualify for the final tournament. CONMEBOL or South America has 4.5. UEFA or Europe is the deepest and most talented confederation, so they receive the most qualifying bids. 13 European countries qualify for every World Cup in the current format. Africa or CAF has 5 teams that make the World Cup. Asia or AFC has its best 4 or 5 teams that qualify. Oceania or OFC only receives 0.5 qualifying slots. And then we also have to take into account our host nation. They represent the 32nd nation. The host always automatically qualifies, so they don't have to go through the process for that particular World Cup. Qatar, the beneficiary in 2022. And now we have our 32 teams, and this is where the fun begins. Let's talk about the schedule and the format of the actual World Cup. It takes place over the summer because most of the top domestic leagues around the world are all on break over the summer months. Every 4 years, as we said before, the World Cup is about a month-long event, typically 2 weeks for the group stage and 2 weeks for the knockout stage. And what do I mean by the group stage? Well, this is an example from the 2022 World Cup. We take our 32 teams and we split them up into 8 groups of 4 teams each. The draw is typically held about 6 months before the World Cup, where the distribution of all 32 nations is decided. The host country is always in Group A, as you can see Qatar here. There's also no nations from the same continent within the same group, the exception being UEFA. Obviously, UEFA has 13 qualifying slots, so some of the European teams have to be in the same group. Once the World Cup begins, then every team will play the other 3 teams in their group over a 2-week span, so each nation guaranteed to play at least 3 games no matter what. And all the group stage games are 90-minute matches, no extra time or penalties involved. Since 1994, the round-robin format has been a team receives 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. We also use goal difference as a potential point tiebreaker if necessary. This is an example of the Group B standings from the 2018 World Cup. In this scenario, Spain and Portugal advanced into the knockout round since they finished in first and second place in the group. The knockout bracket involves 16 teams, so that's the top 2 teams from each of these 8 groups. And speaking of the knockout stage, this is how things shook out in 2018 in Russia. Since Uruguay won Group A, they played the runners-up from Group B, Portugal. The winner of C, France, faced off against the Group D runners-up, Argentina. Winner of E, Brazil, plays second place of F, Mexico. Group G winner, Belgium, versus H runner-up, Japan. And the same formula for the other half of the bracket, with winners playing against runners-up. But yeah, the knockout bracket, pretty straightforward. It's single elimination. If you lose once, you go home. Games can go into a 30-minute extra time period if the score is still tied, and then a penalty shootout if necessary. We have a round of 16, quarterfinals, semis, and a final. So 4 rounds is what it takes to conquer the world. France with the magical campaign in Russia this time around. And here's a quick look at the all-time table pre-2022 World Cup. These are the 20 countries that have finished in the top 3 of at least one World Cup. You can see Brazil with the most World Cup titles at 5, Germany and Italy each with 4 championships, Germany with the most top 2, top 3, and top 4 finishes. But I just think it's fun to look at these kind of stats. It's such an exclusive club. Only 8 different countries have ever won the World Cup, and I'm a huge fan of the history of the World Cup. Every 4 years when it rolls around, it's definitely some of the most entertaining competition on the globe. Thanks a lot for watching my FIFA World Cup explained video. If you still have questions, please leave a comment. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, subscribe to the Snowman Sports Media if you want more soccer and football content. I'll be back very soon with more fun. Cheers.